Get Warrior Tough, Mental Training 101 with Andrew Whitman and Dutch Coleman. And now back to Andrew and Dutch.
All right, back in the saddle. Want to get in on this conversation on Twitter? Use the hashtag #GetWarriorTough. Dutch is at the Dutch Coleman. I'm at Warrior Tough PhD. We're speaking with Dr. Steven Zodkoy, board-certified chiropractor, board-certified nutritionist, and kinesiologist. He's the author of Misdiagnosed: The Adrenal Fatigue. You could look the book up at www.theadrenalfatiguelink.com. That's theadrenalfatiguelink.com. It's also available on Amazon. He does a ton of great work with the civilian community, but also with the Marine Corps, close to my heart. He's with WeSoldierOn.org. He's the director of the resiliency program. When we left off at break, Dutch, Dr. Steve told us a story about a Marine who was in combat, do 2 tours in Afghanistan, couldn't pass his psych eval and his physical, Dr. Steve treated him for 10 days, went back, passed all that, and then went into recon and is now, again, serving the nation on the front line. And you said you had a statement about that.
You know, we and Andrew and I, we go around and we talk to a lot of people in corporate America. And one of the things we talk about is solving problems. And a lot of times solving problem comes in the form of dollars and cents, for lack of a better term. So when you look at an opportunity to save the organization money, a lot of times that is equated with problem solving, right? I saved you money, I solved your problem, I saved you money. Well, what the good doctor just did was basically save the United States government and military probably hundreds of thousands of dollars with that one move, because you have an already trained officer, you're a person that's already been through some things, that's already had very particular experiences, all these different things. So, you know, it costs hundreds of thousands of dollars in years to get another person up to speed to the level of knowledge and experience as this particular soldier. So when you can recommission, for lack of a better term, this individual, it saved you years and hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not more, of trying to develop someone like that. And it's almost it's not easy to duplicate those particular experiences, because you don't want someone to have to go through those experiences again. But when you have somebody that already did, then that saves that, and maybe you're saving others from having to go through some of those traumatic experiences. Right. So again, related to corporate America, you're saving money, you're solving problems. That's what the good doctor just did for our military. Every time he has a soldier who gets to be, again, for lack of a better term, recommissioned and put back out in the workforce as a productive member of our military.
Love it. I love it. All right. So, Doc, Dutch asked you about nutrition, right? So I know for us, it's a huge part of what we do when we're dealing with, executives and, what I call them, the athletes of the business world. And we teach a lot of law enforcement too, and dealing with the stress. We preach a lot of stuff about hormonal nutrition and whatnot. And that's what attracted me to your work, because there's just not a lot of science out there and research on that. And your work is just phenomenal. And I just absolutely love it. And could you tell us a little bit about just the nutritional side of it?
Sure. One of the things that I determined through seeing so many veterans and active duty and just people in the general public, because burnout isn't really just corporate executives and soldiers. It's really all of us. We're under stress all day long. With the TV, with the computers, with the phone, life is stressful all the time. So we're seeing burnout across the board. And one of the biggest things that I came across was what we used to call adrenal fatigue, where the adrenals just didn't produce enough hormones to keep somebody motivated and ready to go. And so what I started to do is to research this more and more and more. And what we found is that the Navy actually did a great study, and it showed that Navy divers who had a flat cortisol level throughout the day — the cortisol is produced by the adrenal glands, it's known as the fight or flight mechanism, and the divers who had a totally flat cortisol level throughout the day had more physical complaints, couldn't concentrate as well, did extremely poor on that Maslach burnout inventory test I mentioned before, and really couldn't function. And this was fantastic because now we actually had a link between burnout and cortisol levels and physical and emotional function. And what's happening now is that there is more and more research linking burnout to what's called an abnormal cortisol response. So adrenal fatigue doesn't really exist in medicine. This is a big problem because endocrinologists and physicians don't believe that your cortisol levels really matter. But now the latest research, over the last 2 to 3 years, every journal, psych journals, physical journals, biochemical journals, neurobiochemical journals.
The Get Warrior Tough Network. We've been talking about it too, Doc.
Yeah. Everybody is recognizing that, your cortisol levels, not whether they're high or low, but their inability to respond to stress is what's causing physical complaints and emotional complaints like anxiety, depression, and burnout, and then pain. So what I found was that you don't need the drugs because they'll try to use antidepressants, anti-anxiety medications, hydrocortisone to correct this issue, but that's the wrong approach. When you do that, what you're trying to do is force the body to go in one direction. But that doesn't work when we're trying to change hormone levels or cortisol levels. They need to be fluid. They need to go up temporarily when you're under stress, and they need to drop down when you need to relax and go to sleep. So by trying to take a drug that's controlling it, you'll only solve half the problem at best. So what we found was if we support the adrenals using nutritional supplements, we're able to give it back its flexibility. It could rise up high in the morning. It could rise up in the middle of the day if you're under stress. But at the end of the day, it'll drop down so that you feel rested and calm. And that's the key. You don't want to control the adrenals. You want to give them back their flexibility. And this is totally beyond traditional medicine. Traditional medicine, you take a pill, it forces your body to do one thing and one thing only, and that doesn't work with adrenal fatigue, burnout, PTSD, because you need the flexibility. How many of the soldiers and Marines have you met? They're always on high edge, always on high edge. They need to get that flexibility to calm down. And some of them are just so worn out, they need that flexibility to raise up. And what we found is that nutritional supplements are really the best way to approach that.
Wow, that's awesome. And I know in your book you talk about alkali and acid, with kind of working that pH while you're with the foods that you eat, and that's fantastic too. I mean, I've been practicing that for years. Just get his book, okay? Get Mr. Adrenal Fatigue. We can't go through the whole thing in the hour, but right.
But a couple of things is, we use what's called adaptogens. Adaptogens are herbal remedies that have been found to be extremely safe and balancing. Licorice, ashwagandha, rhodiola, ginseng. And what these nutrients will do is they'll help the adrenals pump up when they need it and calm down when they want to. So those are a couple of the real important nutritional supplements we use. And then for a diet standpoint, a couple of things we really want to look for, again, is the alkalinity. Your body's supposed to run at a alkalinity of 7.2, your saliva and your internal system. At 7.2, you're optimally function. It tells us that your body can function great, your stomach can break down the food, stomach acid can break down the foods, you can digest the food, you can eliminate the foods, you can get all the good nutrients out of it. And what we find is people who are under chronic stress, burnout, life itself, their pH drops more and more and more. And when their pH drops, they're not absorbing minerals. And low pH is actually a good indicator that you don't have the minerals and vitamins in your system to balance it out. So it shows how critical you are. So switching to an alkaline diet, and an alkaline diet is really makes a lot of common sense. It's a lot of vegetables. A lot of vegetables have vitamins and minerals which will raise your alkalinity. It's some fruit to raise your alkalinity, and it's limiting but not stopping your protein intake. So, maybe you'd have 4 ounces of protein at dinner and then fill the rest of the plate with vegetables and very, very little carbohydrates. The key is getting rid of the stuff we all know is bad: the coffee, the alcohol, the sugar, the simple white flours. All the stuff we know are bad are really what play into lowering your pH and causing symptoms. And this, again, even relates back to the adrenal glands. When your adrenals are overwhelmed with stress, they dump a lot of glucose from the liver into your bloodstream, and then that extra glucose makes it very, very hard for your body to use, and so it stores it as fat. But it also sort of makes you crave more of the simple carbohydrates, the alcohol, and the caffeine, because it wants to keep that system going. Even though it's a negative system, it wants to keep it going. So when you switch to an alkaline diet and use fruits and vegetables to rebuild your system, you're breaking that cycle of wanting that bad food and creating a cycle where you want that good food. And for everybody, and this is always their biggest complaint, is it'll help them lose the belly fat. Everybody wants to lose the belly fat.
Well, the thing that I like about it, I know we got a couple more minutes before we're going to break, but I love the fact that, whenever you hear about a person that's experiencing something like PTSD, you think about drugs, and that's the only thing you think about. So when the doctor is prescribing these things for you, that's all you understand is drugs. I don't really understand in layman's terms what it's doing to me. You're just telling me a bunch of stuff, but I have no control. But when you use words like nutrition, and then you start explaining the different foods that I can eat that's going to help me, I can control that, because you can give me a list of things that provide this and that, and then I can choose based on what I like to eat, my taste, the portion. So I have more control. But the fact that I see that there's a solution out there that involves natural things that I can hold, things that I can touch, things that you can talk to me about, and things that I can understand on my level, that's beautiful. So I love the fact that we're looking at these natural remedies. And I know the drugs do have a place, but the fact that we can incorporate healthy choices and that are going to have, like you said, the other implications, like getting rid of the belly fat and all the other things that are going to extend your life. Probably your blood pressure is going to be better. Everything's going to end up being better. But I just love that.
Yeah, how the machine works. It's an amazing thing. It really is, if you're working it right.
One of the things is that this gives us that link between the mind, the body, and the biochemistry.
Yep.
And people want to have more control over their bodies, their mind, and their biochemistry. We're giving control back to, whether it's a soldier, a Marine, a housewife, or an executive. We're giving them back control. And when they have control, they're going to run with it. And that's what we need. We need to rebuild people so that they're running with it and getting back to the life they want and building this country.
I love it. Dutch, are we up on a break?
We sure are.
All right, so you're listening to the Get Warrior Tough radio show with Dutch and Andrew and our very special guest, our good friend, Dr. Stephen Zodkoy. We'll be right back.